Okay, so I am live in my studio area. We just got back from being at the park with Floki and Olive. They're probably going to be a little naughty while I'm doing this live stream because they like to get my attention. Olive is on the top of her perch and Floki is throwing balls around, so you might hear some noise behind me whenever I'm trying to demonstrate. I'm not drawing today, but I've had several requests to demonstrate or show the area of where I work. So this is what I'm doing right now. Is just going to show you like the area where I'm set up to do my drawing and how I work. Right now I have two desks set up, and both of them have these little lights. I know I've showed them before, but they have these little lights. They're daylights from Amazon, not Ott brand, but they're daylight version. And they swivel so you can adjust the lighting, and they have up to 4 settings before they go off. Brightness settings. And let me turn it off. And I have multiple pieces going on. This was one that I have covered with Glassine Paper when I'm not working on it. And right now I'm working over in the other corner on the other desk. I have my boom set up with my camera on it so I can record what I'm doing. I record all of my drawing process so that I can go back and make a time lapse later. This light here, I can just slide my hand across it and it goes off and on. It has like a little, well, let's just start over here to the left. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a little cart that came from IKEA that has my pencils on it. And then I have another one here. Depending on what pencils I'm using, I move them, I get them staged and set up ahead of time so that I can do my drawing. Right now, these 2 buckets that hang on the side of my cart are the pencils that I'm using for the current drawing. I know that's kind of crazy, but I have a system. I have some here that I have that are more frequently used at the whatever stage I'm on. These are pencils that eventually I'll start going, okay, I have too many of them out, and I'll start rotating them back to the color that they go in, the color bin, and I'll just start moving them back. So it's kind of, it looks like chaotic, but I really have a system. The birds are being noisy because they're trying to talk too. But anyway, I put them back every now and then only grab what I need. So this is my main bin, and this is more of a working bin, and this is a working bin. So there is a method to my madness, but it looks like chaos, and I really know what I'm using. So this is the desk. Oops, finger in the way. This is the desk area. I have my iPad clipped on a board here that hangs, and it's about 1 inch or 2 off of, actually it's about a 1/2 inch off of the table so that it doesn't touch the drawing. And then I have my iPad clipped with like art clips on it that I can move up and down wherever I need it. I have it charging all the time. And then I have my drawing, which is hard to get pictures of with the glare and the lighting proper, but I have the little lights as well up here that I can do, and either side. And for extra lighting, I have this one, and this is an Lite brand, I believe, and I will adjust it as I need it to whatever area I need extra lighting. I know it seems like I have a lot of lights. It seems a little bit crazy, but I really need to be able to get it really nice and bright. I have the big windows out the front, which really only give me morning light, and then I have these windows here that give me like up till about noon. I'll get some good lighting from it, but I still like the lighting artificial from all the lights and things because it gives me a more consistent lighting. I know what I'm going to get. I know what it's going to be like all the time. It's hard because of the glare. But if I'm using outdoor light 1 minute and then light the next, the colors of the piece changes. And so that makes it more difficult for me. 1 minute I think I have my skin tones right, and then the next minute I don't. So, my hand in the way. Anyway, so I prefer to have a consistent lighting, be either the light above it or this one on the side here. And this one is pretty cool. It has like a bendable neck, but it has its on-off switches kind of on the side here. Let's see if I can get to it. But you just slide, it's like right here. So you can just slide it. It's sensitive to touch. And then you just slide it back up to get it to come on. So it makes it a little bit easier. And it's flexible, so I can adjust if I have too much light, if it gets too bright. Because in some light, it looks very washed out with the light. And other lighting, it's too dark, too, whatever. So I'll adjust those 4 lights there to make it work for my drawing. And so as far as sitting, sorry, I'm trying not to shake my phone too much. I have a chair with no arms, an office chair, and because I sit for long periods of time, I am using this pillow. It's actually called I think it's called Kabooti actually on Amazon, but it has the center hole cut out so your tailbone isn't pressing. And I have about 5 of these around the house that I use all the time in every chair that I sit in, because it really makes for a lot more comfortable sitting when you have to sit for long periods. Lately, because I'm trying to get to the bottom area with all the flowers, I've been rolling my chair out of the way and putting this pillow on the floor and actually doing it that way, because it's actually easier than readjusting this piece of paper. The question I was asked is, how do I get it onto the glass table? I have it taped with artist tape right along the edge, and I try to keep a perfectly clean edge, but my framer gets kind of mad at me, hi Carrie, because I don't always do that perfectly, and then we have to cut it down a teeny bit and trim it to make it fit the frame size that we pick. Let me move this lighting. Maybe it doesn't need to be this dark. I can't tell if the light is helping or adding to the glare right now. Let me move my camera. So I use that chair. It swivels. I never have armrests because you want your arms out of the way. My desk, you can see, is almost straight up and down. I mean, it has an adjusting thing on the back, and this one is standing up more than this one. This one is more laid back. I think this one is about a 70-degree angle. This one's even more upright. Not really sure how far, what the degree of angle is, but it's almost upright, and it helps a lot to be able to reach the top portion, to be able to reach up here. I couldn't reach up there if I had it laid back too much without leaning way over in front of my video camera, because I have to keep that in mind when I'm drawing. You have to have the video camera so that it's looking at the paper almost as if it was straight in front of. So if it was straight up and down, I would adjust my camera more like this. But because it's looking downward, I'm having it facing like this, and then it points down at the right angle on the piece. So when I do my time-lapse video, I'm not too far out of proportion as far as her face and the way the drawing is. So this camera I used to have the length of a boom really long, but it was getting difficult to walk around with my birds taking up so much room. So I shortened it. It has a weight on the back, one of my husband's weights for his workout stuff. He just put it on here to balance the amount of so that I can easily move my camera up and down. I'm moving it out of the way right now. And it swivels, so when I'm not wanting to hit my head on it or whatever, I can move it out of the way. Let me turn this light off. I don't know if that's helpful on the lighting of the piece or not. Yeah, it looks better with the light. It's kind of washed out in here. I also have 4 pot lights. So I have these bright lights up on top, 4 of them in the room, and a ceiling fan with a light as well. So there's a lot of lighting in here. I'm pretty picky about my lighting. I really need a lot of light. I also have, in addition to everything, I have glassine paper that I have taped up at the top. So when I'm not with the drawing, or the birds are doing things and I'm worried about them flying around and hitting my piece, or any reason whatsoever, I want to get the dust down, or I don't want light on it, direct sunlight, I will keep this piece over the drawing when I'm not using it. I have 2 or 3 pieces of glassine paper. That's Glassine, Glassine, and you can get that from pretty much any craft store. You can get it on Amazon. And I use that all the time because I want to protect my piece from either, like I said, UV light or dust or people touching it, especially showing the house. Sometimes I forget, but when I'm showing the house, if people are bringing their children in and somebody comes along and touches my drawing, I try not to touch my drawing when I'm using the pencils. So over here on my little rolling cart, I have glassine paper cut down to squares, and once it starts getting kind of wrinkled or dirty, I just throw it away. And these are some pencils that I have. So anyway, I use the glassine paper under my hand when I'm actually drawing. You've probably all seen that. And these are just some pencils that, my chapstick, of course you gotta have chapstick. But these are pencils that are tiny. I call them tiny, they're not really. Some of them are just too small to fit in these cups because they fall down. Sorry, they fall down and below. So when that happens, I just toss them down here. I still use them frequently and grab them out of here. And especially when I'm drawing at night because of the birds, I try to keep the noise level down. So I will use a manual sharpener like this, my favorite basic manual sharpener. And I'll use this one when they're little and the little pencils rather than putting them in the pencil sharpener. I use the electric pencil sharpener, and this one is an X-Acto. I have two of them over here because I have two drawing tables, and so I'm using this one, the X-Acto. I think it's called Pro X. Yeah, it's Pro X there. The other one is the School Pro. And I will use the electric sharpener most of the time, but the manual sometimes gets it even sharper, so for the tiny little details and some of the little spots, I definitely need a manual sharpener. So I will use that. It looks a little washed out with the light. Certain lighting, it will definitely look more washed out with the outlights, which is a problem when I'm making videos because I want it to be very vivid like I see it in person, but when I really, for cameras, I need to have a lot of good lighting, and then when you turn the lighting on, it washes it out a little bit. So it's kind of a balance when I'm trying to make my time-lapse video, is adjusting it so that it looks the natural color that it looks like when I'm seeing it in the room. Also, because there's a lot of black, you can see when I go at an angle, because there's a lot of black, it gets kind of shiny, and it's hard to photograph black. It's hard to video black and get a true result, especially with all the lighting in the room. So artificial lighting is the way I go, and that's because I want consistency. I want to be able to get it really close and know that I have it bright enough. I would rather it be washed out. If I'm drawing and it looks washed out from the lights, that's okay, because I'm going to make it more saturated because it's going to look washed out, and I want to make it more saturated. So when I turn the lights off, it's actually brighter and more vivid than it would be if I were drawing without the artificial lights, if that makes any sense. So let's see, what else? I don't know if you guys have any questions. Anyone's watching this live. Okay, so I use this battery-operated eraser, and it's really not as much of a, like you think, it's not really to erase. I'm using it for technique, to add highlights or to take a little white spot. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Why are you making so much noise? I'm trying to do a video here. Huh? What are you guys doing? Are you fighting over food? Yeah, they're being a little stinkers because they've been sitting in the car for an hour while we waited for people to look at the house. So now they're arm wrestling, I think. Foot wrestling, something like that. It looks like foot wrestling to me. Okay, so be quiet so I can finish my video. So anyway, back to my battery-operated eraser. I use it mostly for technique. It's not as much for what you would think, like to erase mistakes. So I will often use it on a piece of sandpaper to get a little sharp point, because I will use it for like little tiny sharp white dots that I need to lift color. Sometimes it's easier to lift the color and after applying some area and make the highlights than it is to try to leave the paper or a lighter color. So if that kind of makes sense. So let's see what else. Some of the stuff down there is not being used for some of the students. I don't use this at all. This is for, I was teaching a student. I don't use any blending stumps or any blender pencils or any solvents or this eraser. This is primarily here for another student. Let's see, and this is all my polychromos that I'm using at the time that I'll go back and forth, and I can tell you that a large majority of the polychromos pencils I have used for just this drawing already, and I will likely use every single color of the 120 colors to create this piece. And then over here I have backup pencils behind the travel cage. We just got back, so I haven't put the travel cage away. But I have extra pencils over there, so when I run out, I go and pull the color I need from there, because sometimes I do. However, when I run out of some of the pencils, I go first to here, or when I can't find one, I go to here, because these shorter pencils, they're not all super short, but I have some that are literally a 1-inch pencil or 2-inch pencil. So, but as they get shorter and they fall below the level like this one here, it starts to get difficult to get a hold of. So I start going and tossing them in here just to make it easier so I don't have to dig around in here. That's one thing I hate doing, is digging around for little pencils down the bottom. So as soon as I start sharpening them and they get small like this, I just toss them down there and then grab from there when I need them. I don't like reaching in here because I'm constantly poking my hands on the tips of the pencils. Also, the Tombow Mono Zero Eraser is something that's really coming in handy for this piece. I use it a lot. That bright light is wrong. Let me see if I can move it. I don't know. I'm shaking the camera a lot, you guys. I'm sorry. But anyway, I use this Tombow Mono Zero Eraser. It's a very tiny, hard eraser. It's not electric, not battery operated. It's manual, but it's a very hard eraser, and it's tiny. And so I can use it to take little tiny highlighted areas out of her hair or out of the flowers or whatever. So that kind of makes it nice. The daytime when I'm drawing, it's a little harder because I'm so used to drawing at night that right now it's so bright that it's kind of washed out looking, and I don't really use the lights when it's super bright. Let me turn them all off and see, but still really bright in the room. Let me turn that off. Okay, trying to turn this light off. Okay, so it's still really bright in the room, but you see the shadows that get cast on the piece. Whenever I'm drawing and the daylight, if I don't have the lights on or the bright lights on, it casts all these little shadows and it gives me a false idea of what it looks like. So I use the lights regardless, but then whenever I turn the bright lights on it and get rid of those, then it kind of washes it out a lot. It's a little too bright. At night, it's completely different. So thankfully for me, I being a kind of nocturnal, I turn on all the lights like this. I usually have all 4 of them going whenever I'm drawing at night. And then I actually half the time turn off all the above room lights. So I'll turn off the pot lights and the ceiling fan light, and Olive and Floki will go to their cages and be covered in it's dark and she's showing off. So they'll go in the cages at night, and they don't mind at all that I'm in here drawing. You don't hear any noise from them. Once the cover goes on, they're very nice, very quiet, and I draw for hours, probably till sometimes 2 or 3 a.m. And then in the mornings, they get up about 12, 13 hours of sleep. Then they get up, and we start our day again. And I don't get near as much drawing done in the daytime. Is it out of focus? You know, I think it's because when I'm recording, it takes a while to get the HD, because last time whenever I did the live stream, when I first watched it, it looked blurry, kind of out of focus. And then later when I went back, it was like they went and made yes, I can see the chat. They made it HD later, and it got sharper for some reason. I was really worried about the quality, and then when I went back and looked at it later, I had HD available. So I don't know if maybe just the recording gets to be recorded HD, and then when you're watching it, it's not so good. I don't know. This is only the second time I've done a live stream, but I can see the chat pop up. So if you have any questions about the area that I'm working, if you just write something in the chat, it pops up on my window and I can answer your questions. I don't know exactly how many hours I've spent on this piece so far, but I'm gonna guesstimate 55 maybe, 60. So I think I'm actually, it says, if you see the chat, why don't you say hi? Hi, I don't think I saw the chat when it first turned it on. I was probably looking at a bird or looking around at the pencils. So sorry if I didn't say hi when you first joined. Sometimes I'm very distracted in the room because I have the 2 birds behind me. So I might not be looking at the screen, and it only appears for a second. So as soon as you chat something to me, it shows up, and then I read it. and I respond. So if I don't see it in that second that it pops up, then it's gone, and I have to wait till after I'm done recording. So this is kind of all new to me, YouTube. Thank you, whoever said it was incredible. I saw that a minute ago. Thank you. It is one of my favorite pieces so far, but that always happens, and then I lose that favorite status when I do another one. The birds are pretty hilarious. In fact, they keep me from working. The big light attached to the board. Okay, are we talking about this one? This is not attached to the board, and I'll show you how it works. It's standing behind, and it just has a base. So I have it, it goes all the way up like that. It's flexible arm, so you can move it. I can stand it up and move it back and bend them however I want. And it has 2 lights on the top, and they are flexible. They can be turned however you want to be directed on the piece, and then they have 4 settings of brightness. Once it gets to 4, it goes off on the tap, and you can bend it. I really like them because sometimes I need specific lighting on an area. I got it on Amazon, but sometimes I'll need it to have a not so direct light, so I'll swivel it out here, and sometimes I need way more direct light, so I'll put it right like that. I got it on Amazon. It's really reasonable price. I'll share the link on my Facebook page after this, and I'll also put it on the YouTube information when I'm done with the video. It's one of my favorite lights. I have it on both desks, and it's really incredible because I don't know who thought of it, but it's great because you can move it around, swivel it. You can do different levels of lighting, and it's perfect for behind a drafting table, in my opinion. And the arm here is flexible, so you can bend it up and down and get it closer to the art or further away. So let's see, any other questions? A lot of questions were asked, and I'm trying to cover them all before I end the live stream. Let's see, so there's 4 lights. It's technically 3. This one is called Daylight. Search for Amazon Duo, D-U-O, lighting, Daylight. The painting studio. My painting studio. I'll probably do a different video. I have my phone plugged in and my birds are in here by itself, so I'll go share my painting video as well on a YouTube live stream. But right now the birds are in here. I don't like to leave them unsupervised with my artwork because they can get pretty naughty. Today, Olive decided to fly over here and hang on one of my handles, and I was thinking that's a little too close to my art, so I try to stand between them and the art. Most of the time they're pretty good, and they will stay over here on the gym. You can see I've given them a lot of stuff to do, so they don't really get bored. And if they do, I make sure they have new toys swapped out all the time. And if they get really rowdy, I just put them in their cages for a while. Over here is a great big art table. It's like a rolling table that I use. Is that long thing a cutting board? That is it is definitely a cutter. I cut down my art paper with it. I can get it out of focus a little bit. Let me see if I can get it in focus. That is how I cut down all my art. Oh, I just realized if I tap the screen, I can see all of the rest of your chats. So that's pretty cool. I'm afraid to touch anything too much. I might accidentally disconnect the live stream. But this is a great cutter. I just slide that bar back and forth to cut the paper down. And this paper didn't really need that because this is a giant roll. This came off of a really big roll of paper, Stonehenge by Legion Paper. And I had to do it on my kitchen table. I had to roll it out and then cut it. And that's part of the reason I was being so finicky about sitting on the floor to finish down below on the bottom parts. I sat down on the floor because normally what I would do is take a piece of paper and untape it and rotate it left, right, however way I wanted to work on different areas. But I couldn't do that with this piece because it's still somewhat curled from being off of the roll. And you can see it tries to pull loose from the tape. And I have to go like this every now and then because the tape is not very strong tape. It's artist tape. And because it was on a roll, oops, my finger, it wants to curl up. So if I were to take it all off right now before all the pencil gets on it, it would curl up, and that kind of makes for not fun repositioning, and I don't want to make any dents in my paper. So I just decided to leave it like this. This was not the original orientation that I planned for this piece. I planned to turn it where her face is looking down, if that makes sense. It was going to be more of a portrait than landscape like it is now. But after drawing on it for this long, I'm really becoming fond of the layout this way. So I'm probably going to leave it like this and frame it like this. We'll see when her dress and other arm and the rest of the flowers are put in. I will be working on it again during a live stream. In fact, I did that once, and I will do it again. Probably, I don't know, I'm just going to get some feedback on my Facebook page and see if people want to watch me do her hand or the arm or more flowers. I don't know. I did the face, I think, last time, a little bit of the hair and face. So if you want to watch me do that live stream again, just let me know what you think. And when that happens, what I do is I have another Lite and I drag it in here, and it has a clip on it. It has like a clip and a magnifying glass. I don't use the magnifying glass, but I use the clip, and I'll clip my phone on the magnifying on that Lite and kind of set it behind me, and that way I can watch what I'm doing. How long will it take to finish? I think, okay, my goal was to finish this by the 31st of March, and I've been working on it since the beginning of March, actually 2 or 3 days before, but I had to go to NAMTA to Dallas, so I was gone for 3 days. So it equals out to, I've been working on it for almost exactly as many days as we are into the month right now, which I think this is the 12th, so I've been working on it for 12 days. So my plan is in 3 days, I will be at least halfway through it, maybe more, because the flowers are faster than the skin. So when I'm drawing all these flowers and greenery, it goes really quickly. But when I'm drawing her skin tones, which I'm not even done with her chest, I still have to work more on it. When I'm drawing her skin tones and her face and area, hands and that part, it really does take a long time. So if let me see if the light is better or worse. What camera do you use? Oh, my time-lapse camera. It's not really a time-lapse camera. This is just a standard Panasonic HD video camera. But it's not what does the time-lapse. What does the time-lapse is I use Final Cut Pro. So what I'll do is I'm recording every second that I draw, except for the other day when I accidentally thought I was recording, and I think I drew for an hour. So when you watch the time-lapse back, every now and then something will kind of magically appear. That's because I forgot during that moment to actually record. So what I'll do is I'll record it all, and I'll literally fill up about probably 4 64 gig cards, SD cards, and then I'll move them all onto my computer. I have a Mac Pro that I use to do that, and I move them all onto my computer, and then I will condense them together and speed it up. No problem. So I'll speed it all up and then to whatever time I want. And even though this is going to be like probably, I thought it was going to be 200. I think I'm going to be able to finish it more in 120 hours. I don't know. But I will know that in the end because I don't have to worry about how long I'm spending because I'm recording it. So I'll know when I get those videos off of the camera exactly how much time I spent on the piece. And so then I'll just say, okay, this many hours plus however much time it, oops. What are you guys doing? I'll know whatever time I spent on it, and then I'll see the number of hours that I spent. Hi guys, you gonna show off? They're playing. They're being really good. This is a really good time of evening for them to be out. Typically in the mornings they're pretty naughty when I'm trying. So another reason I draw mostly at night, because now I have these little feathered kids that I have to take care of. So anyway, so what was I saying? The time-lapse video will take me, by the time I put that together, it'll take about an hour to figure it all out and put it together. And then I try to condense it to like 1 to 2 minutes. But because this is such a long process, that's going to be pretty speedy. It's going to look really fast if you watch me draw that in like 1 minute. So it's going to be interesting. I'll probably try a couple different ones, a 1 minute version and a 2 to 3 minute version. This table just has, in addition to the cutting board, it has a light box. This is a really large light box. Mostly I use this for my students. When I'm teaching them how to draw, learning to draw starts with just getting your proportions correctly. And so once we practice with the light box, then they start practicing to do both, to be able to draw with and without the light box. And then these are just extra Stonehenge paper for when I'm teaching workshops. Sometimes I'll use mostly one color, and then I will end up needing a lot less of the other color, so I'll have an accumulation of one color, and like all the fawn gets used the most. You can see my fawn is very, very little fawn, so if I teach a workshop or something, I pull from that, I run out, have to get more. But this pretty much is the workshop side, or the work side, I should say. And then this is the second table I also use for my students. Can anyone learn to draw? It depends on who you ask. I say yes. This is the way I feel. Most people can draw. They say, and I don't know how true it is, but this is a they say. Yeah, it is like a story. My own little Michael's. They say people actually draw to about the level of a 12-year-old, and then they just stop improving. And so if you took a lot of 12-year-olds, they could all draw about the same level. So my thought is that the more you practice, the better you get, regardless of what level you're at. So sure, there are some adults who are significantly better than other adults, maybe because they like to draw, they had a lot of interest in it, they practiced. And so yeah, maybe they are better than you, or more skilled at proportions, or just different, and they have a more advanced level of drawing. But if everyone practiced as many hours as I did, I believe that they would improve regardless of what level they're at. They're going to continue to improve. I will never stop improving. If I do, then it would be very boring. But I have been drawing since September of 2014. Prior to that, I mostly did stuff like this. You can see that. That's a very different style of art. Just kind of sketching and cartoony type stuff, and abstract or impressionistic, and I didn't do photorealism, and I didn't even think I could. So September of 2014, I felt like if I tried hard enough that I could learn to, and I started drawing, and I got better and better and better, and every time I draw I get better. In fact, part of the reason why I work so hard to finish it in such a short period of time, this piece will have taken me hopefully less than a month to finish. But if I spend too much time on a piece, like for instance this one I'm working on, I've spent a lot of time on it, and I still have a long ways to go. But because let me open this up. But because I've improved so much since I started drawing it, I'm starting to sort of lose interest. I'm still going to finish it, but I started losing interest because I started realizing I could have done a lot better job if I started over. So it's kind of annoying to get to that stage where you're like, I could have done this better. And so I try to finish a piece as quickly as possible. That way, I still love it for a week or two before I've improved, and this feels like my old stuff. Most of the things, I have some prints up there. Let's see. That's a charcoal drawing. Those are some prints that I had, little prints. I don't have my artwork in here right now, but some of the art that I finished, like even some of my best pieces, I look back at them and I'm like, oh, I can do so much better than that. Those are my old pieces of art. So I like to finish my pieces as quickly as possible so that I can still enjoy that this is the best I've ever done feeling. And then shortly after that, I'll start a new project, and it probably won't be the best I've ever done anymore. That's just the way it goes. So let's see. Right now, pencil organization. These are all the polychromos, and I sort them by color pretty much. Sometimes they get mixed in. Some of the oranges get mixed in with the yellows. But I try to keep them by color. That's helpful for me whenever I go to grab the colors. That's one thing I think that is the hardest part to train. For me, that's the part that made it easier for me to learn to draw, is because color came natural to me. I didn't have to have any art education, any art background. I took homemaking in school as a high schooler, so I didn't even get art in high school. But knowing which color to grab for skin tones, knowing how to replicate the reference, and the reference I'm using is on my iPad, but knowing which ones to use just kind of came natural to me. But for some people, that is the hardest part. When I'm teaching, I notice a lot of my students are like, what color do I use? I don't know which one to grab. And so that kind of that's hard to teach, but it can be taught, and it can be practiced and learned. These are my Albert Dürer watercolor pencils and some variety of pencils. I'm not actually working with the watercolor pencils on either of these pieces, so the polychromos are in the middle so that I can share that cart with both tables. And these little tubs are removable. I got them at IKEA. I have not gone to any fine art school. I have actually been in IT for almost 30 years, or over 30 years. So I was a project manager for software, usually what I did. So I don't really have any experience. I just loved art all my life, and I did a lot of scrapbooking. You can see that I have all this scrapbook stuff on this side, because I used to make a ton of scrapbooks and play with markers and other things like that. So it was more just like a hobby. I made jewelry. I sewed things. I made toys, and pretty much the painting and the art that I did was like, I would see something in a magazine and go, oh, that'd look cool on above my couch. So I'd paint some Italian village or something and put it above my couch. But it was not photorealism, and I never even knew that you could use colored pencils as a professional medium. I thought that pencils were like kids things, that you use them for elementary kids and stuff, and I was like, you're kidding me, there's a colored pencil I had never heard of. Prismacolor, and I don't use those, but I'd never heard of them, and those were the first ones I started with. But after about 3 months of using Prismacolor, I really did not like them at all. I had way too many problems with them, and I discovered Polychromos by Faber-Castell, which is what this one is. They're an oil-based pencil, and it's so much easier for me to complete a drawing without worrying about the wax bloom or the breakage. And you can see I have tile floors, so when I drop pencils, I don't have to worry about sometimes the very sharp tips might break off, but they don't break inside like the Prismacolor pencils do. So I have a lot easier time drawing with them. They work with me instead of against me, and you can see that I'm able to achieve some very vivid, bright colors with Polychromos, which is why I have been using them. I did get some new pencils that I'm going to try, Pro Color by Derwent, and I'm supposed to be getting some light fast pencils, but from them to try, that are actually oil based. So we'll see how that goes. And then that's pretty much my setup. I can't think of anything else. All these drawers over there all contain my crafts and things that I did before I picked up color pencil. Stamping projects, all kinds of jewelry supplies that I would make jewelry with. You can see I still have remnants of my my old hobby days of my sewing threads and stuff up there still. So a whole nother thing over there that has arts and crafts in it. But I've had to narrow it down to make room for my birds and my pencils in this room. So for another day, we will do a video live stream of my painting room, which is next door. It's just, you go out here to the next room around the corner, and I'll demonstrate some stuff that I'm doing in there. But right now, I just wanted to show my pencil area and my silly birds. Olive, can you dance? Can you dance? Good girl. Good girl. Oh, you're going to throw those balls around. This is her new game. We stack the balls up here, and she goes through and takes them and throws them around. And Floki's new to the flock. He's only been with us for about a week, and he's just getting used to everybody. Yeah, aren't you, buddy? They're both very jealous of me. Olive is making a mess in my room. Showing off. Are you showing off? Sometimes she tries to fly to my phone. Okay, so anyway, if you don't have any questions, I don't see any more questions pop up. Hopefully I didn't miss any, because live streaming on YouTube is weird. So I tried it out. This is my second time, and I'm going to watch it back and see how shaky and horrible it was, and see if the HD gets on there and if you can see it bright and vivid. It looks really washed out, but that's my OttLights doing that. But then when I turn the OttLights off, it's kind of not the right lighting. So that's why I turn them on. But you can hopefully see pretty much what I've done so far. And I plan to finish, let's see, today is Monday. By the end of the week, I plan to be finished more than halfway. So I'm planning to finish everything from here down and across that way by the end of the week. And that will give me the right side to finish after that. So I am planning to be done by the last day of March to enter into multiple competitions, which is my deadline that I set for myself. I have no reason to have to finish except for that. So I'm not going to compromise the piece, or, you know, I'll do my very best regardless, and I'm not going to try to speed it up to finish it. I have to have a quality piece, but I do believe at this rate that I will be able to finish by the last day of the month. So anyway, thanks for watching today, and hopefully I can do another live stream of actually drawing, and I'll go on my Facebook page and try to ask everybody a poll and see what you want to see me do the demo of, either the skin or the clothes or the flowers. Okay, talk to you guys later.